So we want to look at how to write 1999 in Roman numerals. But before we can do that, we need to look at some of the basics of how Roman numerals work. So Roman numerals, they use letters to represent different numbers. So the number 1 is represented by the letter I, 5 is represented by V, 10 is X, 50 is L, 100 is C, 500 is D, and 1000 is M. And by putting these together in different combinations, we can make all of our numbers. We're going to look at how we can use these to make the number 1999. So the first thing to know is that by putting our Roman numerals together, we can add them to make different numbers. So for example, if we want to make the number 2, well, that's 1 plus 1, so we write the letter I twice. If we want the number 6, that's 5 plus 1, so we use a V for the 5 and an I for the 1 to make 6. Looking at a bigger number like 103, well, that's 100 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, so we have CIII. We can also use subtraction with Roman numerals. So suppose we want to make 4. Well, 4 is 5 minus 1. So by writing the I for the 1 before the V, this tells us we're doing 1 taken away from 5, hence 4. We could do a similar thing with 19. 19 is a 10 plus another 10 take away 1. So we can use an X for the 10 and an IX to signify the 9, so 19. And again, we can do bigger numbers. So suppose we've got 143. That is 100 plus 50 take away 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So the 100 is a C. The 50 take away 10 is our X for 10, written before the L for 50, plus the 3 I's. So CXL III. Now there are some rules to follow when we're doing subtraction with Roman numerals. Only I, X and C can be subtracted. We can't take away V, can't take away L. We can only do the powers of 10, I, X and C. But also the larger number that we're taking away from can be at most 10 times larger than the smaller number. So for example, IX is fine for 9 because X is 10 times larger than I and we're allowed to take away I's. But we can't do IC for 99 because C is more than 10 times larger than I, so that's not allowed. Similarly, we can do XC for 90, 100 take away 10, because we can subtract X's. C is 10 times larger than X, that's fine. But we can't do VC for 95 because we're not allowed to take away V's. So again, that one's not allowed. So looking at these rules, although it would be tempting to write 1999 as MIM, so 1000 and then 1000 take away 1, because M is more than 10 times larger than I, we're not allowed to write this. So let's look at what we can actually do. So we're going to break 1999 down into its separate components. So it's 1000, 900, a 90 and a 9. Now looking at those last three numbers, 900 is 1000 minus 100, 90 is 100 minus 10, and 9 is 10 minus 1. So when we come to write these as Roman numerals, 1000 is M, 900 is our 1000, our M minus a C for 100, so CM, 90 is 100 take away 10, so an X before a C, and 9 is 10 take away 1, which is an I before an X. So joining them all together in that order, we get that 1999 in Roman numerals is MCM XCIX. Now it's worth noting at this point that what we've just worked out, MCMXCIX, is our modern way of writing it in Roman numerals. So this method was set out mainly in the medieval era and is what we use today on clock faces, at the ends of films, when denoting the number of a Super Bowl, etc. But actual Romans weren't so strict with their subtraction and were just as likely to use multiple additions. So for example, instead of putting IX for 9, they might use V I. So 1999 would be MCM XC V I. In fact, if you were to walk around the Colosseum in Rome, you would see that the numbers chiselled into the rock there, if they end in a 9, usually end in VI. Or we could take this even further and use no subtraction whatsoever. So in long form, we would have M, D for 500, C, L, X, V, I. Complete addition there, no subtraction. So it depends which way we're going. We're going the modern Roman numerals or the genuine ones. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to the Doing Maths channel to keep up to date with all the latest releases.